Hello dear students, welcome to part 2 of the video series on challenges of nation building. I finished the last video discussing about the issue of partition and the displacement and rehabilitation process that was associated with it. We discussed the demand for a separate Pakistan based on two nation theory, a Hindu India and a Muslim Pakistan, and we also discussed when Pakistan and India came into being. Now, process of partition. So the agreed idea was that the areas where Muslims were in majority would make up the territory of Pakistan. So Muslim majority areas will go into Pakistan. But the problem was that there was no single belt of Muslim majority areas. So Muslims were in majority in various parts of the country. So you could not make a puzzle out of it. No? You had to make clear cut uh, countries. Now, secondly, was that not all Muslim majority areas wanted to be in Pakistan. So, like example, Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, who is also known as the Frontier Gandhi, board question, the undisputed leader of the northwestern frontier province, wanted it to remain in India. Of course, his demand or request was not accepted. Even the Congress did not follow through supporting him. But yeah, this thing is very true that not all Muslim majority areas wanted to be in Pakistan. The third problem was that two of the Muslim majority areas or provinces of British India, Punjab and Bengal, had very large areas where the non-Muslims were in majority. So even in Muslim majority provinces, there were big areas where non-Muslims were in majority. So again, this was the challenge in the process of partition. Let me just check the slides. Okay. So one, two, three, four. No. Okay. One, two, three. Just three sides. Done. So the partition of the two provinces of Punjab and Bengal caused the deepest trauma of partition. So of course there is a deep trauma of partition, and it was associated with the two provinces of Punjab and Bengal. The fourth and the most intractable of all the problems of partition, the problem of minorities. What to do with the minorities in the both of the new upcoming nations? So lakhs of Hindus and Sikhs in the areas that were now in Pakistan, and an equally large number of Muslims on the Indian side of Punjab and Bengal, and to some extent Delhi and surrounding areas, found themselves trapped. So these were minorities who found themselves trapped in a majority country. And these minorities on both sides became easy targets of attacks. So there was communal violence, and during this communal violence, minorities on both sides, that is Hindus and Sikhs in Pakistan and Muslims in India, were attacked, and they were very easy targets. Very soon the violence went out of control. Now, consequences of partition. So there were killings and atrocities on both sides of the border. So on both sides you had killing and atrocities. By atrocities I mean rape, torture, loot, but it was mostly rape. Lot of lot of women were raped and they were tortured. It was not just uh, simple rape. It was like the bodies were mutilated, they were burnt alive, their body was cut open. So they were killed horribly and also raped. It was a horrible sight. Now, Manto, you like uh, Manto is a famous Urdu poet and writer, mostly a writer, of course. Nawazuddin Siddiqui portrayed him in a recent movie. You can watch this movie. It's a good movie. So there is a line in this movie. So his Hindu friend, the partition is happening, and Manto is worried that he might get attacked. So his Hindu friend tells him that you are not even Muslim, you drink, so and you eat like you drink, so and no good Muslim will not drink, so you are not even a good Muslim. You are not even a true Muslim. And Manto says that I am Muslim enough to be killed, which means that Muslims felt scared in the independent India, and they feared for their life. So visit page number 10 and read the box. We'll discuss this in Google Meet. So cities like Amritsar and Kolkata, they became divided into communal zones. So like you had in some areas you had Hindu majority, in other areas you have Muslim majority, and whichever religion was in majority, they started attacking the minority religions. The minorities were forced to abandon their homes and move closer to the borders. People went through immense suffering. So you had to like, mm, uh, I think if you remember last year in school, we had this uh, a theater that happened in school. It was this story of partition. It portrayed how Hindu lady was left in her house in Pakistan. Yeah, so if you remember, then you can go back to it. So people were forced to abandon their house, leave behind property, jewelry, land, and homes, and then they had to move across borders, go to the other side. They had to go through immense suffering. There was no proper means of transport. Trains were overfilled, buses were overfilled, and they would often secure temporary shelter in refugee camps. So again, this issue of refugee camps came up, and the refugee camps are also not a very good place to be in. If you have seen this movie Bhag Milkha Bhag, it shows the horrible conditions of refugee camps. So again, people were going through hardships. Thousands of women were abducted on both sides. So they were kidnapped and they were made to convert their religion. So they were raped and then they were forced to convert their religion, and then they were forcibly married. Women were killed by their own family members to preserve the family honor. So again, people killed the women in their family because they did not want them to be raped and abducted and forcefully converted. So again, all these were the issues that we faced during. These were the consequences of partition. Last topic that we are going to discuss is consequences of partition. So it is estimated that the partition forced up to 80 lakh people to migrate across the new border. Look at this huge number, 80 lakh people migrating. This and between 5 to 10 lakh people were killed. So again, it was a huge tragedy. 5 to 10 lakh people were killed in partition-related violence. Now, there is a huge question that comes up. Partition on religious basis had taken place. Okay, there was a religious basis, Hindu and Muslim nations. So, two nation theory. Did that make India a Hindu nation automatically? Because there were two nations, and the one nation that was formed was Muslim nation. Does not that mean that the nation that is left behind, it is mostly Hindu dominated and it automatically becomes a Hindu nation? So, of course not. Actually, uh, the partition led to the downfall of communal politics because people saw the horrors of mixing religion with politics. That while Pakistan became a theocratic state, in India the intellectuals and the masses were horrified at the cases of communalization, and they realized that it is a very bad idea to actually mix religion and politics. Uh, the right-wing politics in India, that is under RSS and Janasangha, they became very weak because of the partition, because people started looking down on communal politics. So it never made India a Hindu nation. Of course, Pakistan chose to be a Muslim nation, but India has always uh, thought of itself as a secular nation, even though the word secularism was not added in the constitution in the uh, preamble, but India was always a secular nation. The problem with this was that the idea of secularism in India was never defined properly. Even it was not even written in the constitution till Indira Gandhi put it there. So again, a lot of appeasement politics also happened in the name of religion, and there was the even the Indian concept of selective intervention again became problematic. A lot of the Hindu majority saw that somewhere they were being given the stepmotherly treatment, and the minorities were being favored, and all this has led to this current problem of this rise of Hindu nationalism. So again, a better thing would have been to properly define secularism in the initial stage and take care of it. So the Muslim population in India accounted for 12% of the total population in 1951. It is 20% now. So a lot of people keep predicting, particularly the BJP leaders, that India will become a Muslim nation by 2050. But if you look at the actual statistics, the fertility rate among Muslims is also going down, and of course it is down in Hindus. So even by 2050, India is not going to become a Muslim nation. Of course, the percentage of Muslims might go up, but it will never become a Muslim dominated. The Muslims will never become majority, at least till 2050. So again, it is a misconception. All citizens would be equal, irrespective of their religious affiliation. So there is this box about Gandhi sacrifice, page 12. You can see that. We'll discuss later. The issue here is that all citizens will be equal respective of the religious affiliation. So right to equality, which means that whatever religion you belong to, the state will treat you equally. The state will not favor any minority or majority. But again, like I told you, somewhere this gets messed up. So, like an example of minority appeasement would be sometime back during the UPA government, Manmohan Singh said that the Muslims of this country have the first right over the resources of this country. So a lot of people took it as religious appeasement and religious discrimination. And the last thing is, being religious or a believer would not be a test of citizenship. So again, this is very important currently in the highlight of the Citizenship Amendment Bill, which is giving citizenship based on this idea of religion. So if you are a Hindu, Sikh, a Buddhist, all these religions except Jews and Muslims, if you are any of the religions like Christian and all, then you can get citizenship in India if you are coming from Pakistan, Afghanistan, or Bangladesh. But again, here this says that being religious or a believer would not be a test of citizenship. That again, that makes more sense, no? Because then what about atheists? Atheists, if they do not believe in religion, does that mean that they cannot become citizens of India? So again, we never gave citizenship on the basis of religion. So with this discussion, I would end the lecture here. In the next video, we will discuss about the integration of princely states of India. This is going to be a long video and a deep discussion, because it will talk about a lot of things. So British India was divided into what were called the British Indian provinces and the princely states. So British Indian provinces were the areas which are ruled directly by the British government, while the princely states were ruled by the kings and queens, which accepted the sovereignty of the British Empire. So they ruled under the protection and the patronage of British Empire. Princely states covered one third of the land area of the British Empire. So again, it was very difficult to get all these blue mark princely states. This is the British India, and this is the blue mark princely states. So get all these princely states to accept the merger into India. We had issues with states like this Hyderabad and Jammu and Kashmir, Gujarat and Gujarat and Rajputana also gave us some issues. So there were a lot of issues. So all this will be discussed in the next class. For this, we'll end it here. Thank you. See you next time.